Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back to the game Our Life. I think it was Our Life. I'm gonna go ahead and dive into this, which is I think the next one that we're gonna do is Sleepover, and then I think we'll probably end summer there. All right, kids, we're done with dinner. Come to the table. Your stomach grumbled right on time, as if it had heard your mom's words. You halted your game and looked over. Mom was almost done setting the table. She was walking around the mahogany wood. I don't know why that word just suddenly didn't look like a word. The mahogany wood in the process of putting down cutlery. Mommy was still in the kitchen, humming under her breath as she turned off the stove and put empty pots in the sink to wash. From beside you, Lizzie stirred, uncrossing her legs and standing up. She stretched her arms above her head. Finally, I'm ready to eat. Then she cast a sly glance in your direction. You recognized that look. Last one at the table is a rotten egg. I haven't. But it was too late. Lizzie had already bolted towards the kitchen. You threw a cushion. that would be my thing. I'm going to throw a cushion. Grabbing one of the cushions from the sofa, you launched it towards her. It hit her in the back of the legs, but it was too soft to do anything of real consequence, and she merely brushed the attack off with a scowl. It was a short distance to the kitchen table. Lizzie managed to get there easily enough, slapping a hand over the wood. Mom moved just before Lizzie could bump into her. With an exasperated sigh, she resumed her work. I win again. Let's see, you didn't win because you were racing by yourself. You didn't bother trying to talk to her about it. You didn't win because you were racing by yourself. No, I told you we were both racing. You're just too slow. I wasn't racing and you know it. That sounds like something a rotten egg would say. Lizzie grinned, her hands on her hips, then looked over your shoulder. Cove, you can be the tiebreaker. Was that a real race that I totally won? You blinked. You hadn't noticed what he'd been doing during this little event, which wasn't much. You spotted Cove still on the floor. His legs were crossed beneath him, the arm with the cast resting in his lap. He looked at the two of you with a slight frown. It felt sort of strange to see him still here so late. Tonight, Cove had come to your house for a sleepover. Your mom's and his dad had planned it a few days ago. You were the ones. You were excited when your moms told you their idea. There was so much to do. It was my idea. They had told you that they would ask Mr. Holden. You looked forward to it since the moment you found out he agreed. And you even helped Mom search the storage area for a sleeping bag and extra bedding to prepare for his visit. Cove pursed his lips at Lizzie's question, but he didn't respond. Maybe he was planning on ignoring her. Not that Lizzie would make it easy. Well, did I win or what? No. What? I don't think you won. How come? It's not my fault Sakura's slow. Cheating's cheating, and cheaters never win. You always pick her side. Cove snuck a shy peek at you before answering her. I pick her, and she picks me. Oh, that's adorable. I love them. You're a couple of rotten eggs, then. That's enough. Nobody here is a loser or a rotten egg. You're each farm fresh, which is a sentence I never thought I'd say. Now listen to Mom and come sit at the table for dinner. All three of you. You and Lizzie obeyed, sitting across from each other at the edge of the table. Lizzie blew a raspberry at you when Mom turned her back. Two can play at that game. You stuck your tongue out right back. When Mommy pointedly cleared her throat, though, the two of you stopped. Your parents brought the last of the food, then they took their seats further down the table instead of sitting right next to you and Lizzie. Only Cove was left out. He had stood up from his spot on the floor, but he hadn't made a move towards the kitchen. Cove, you can sit too. Slowly he eyed the 4 seats that were left. Thanks to the new seating arrangement your parents chose, one free chair was beside you, another next to Lizzie, and the last 2 were on the other side of where your moms were sitting. Sit next to me. I'm gonna tell him to sit next to me. Cove's gaze met your pink eyes. Because I have pink eyeballs, and that makes sense in this world. He smiled. Briefly, he grinned back. He walked over, pulled out the chair next to yours, and sat down. You were glad he wanted to sit with you. He just needed to know it was okay. Now that everyone was situated, Mommy began to pass out plates. Dig in, kids. I cooked a little bit of everything for dinner tonight. Be sure not to avoid all of the veggies. Yes, Mom. Each person at the table served themselves, except for one. Cove hesitated again. He fidgeted with his hands clamped on top of his knees. He didn't seem very comfortable doing stuff in someone else's house. One dish seemed to have his eye at least. That's pineapple chicken. Wanna try some? Not really. Sorry. By then, your moms had noted that Cove still had nothing on his plate as well. Do you not like any of the food, honey? Maybe he hasn't tried Hawaiian food before. He hasn't? Wow. Please don't talk with your mouth full, Lizzie. Lizzie swallowed the bite she was eating and spoke again. He should try it now. She turned to Cove dramatically. Unless you want to shrink. That's what happens if you miss a meal. Elizabeth, that's not true. You know that. Cove squirmed under all the attention. He fidgeted with a fork between his fingers. I've had some things, just not any of this. Oh, shoot. I knew I should have asked your dad before what your favorite foods were. It's all right, Lonnie. Maybe he'll find a new favorite today. You weren't so sure about that. Cove didn't look like he was going to be trying the food anytime soon. I think you would like the pineapple chicken. It's yummy. Give me your plate. You should try something new. I'm going to say this one because this one seems controlling, this one seems aggressive, and this one seems less aggressive? I don't know. He ultimately trusted your judgment. At your suggestion, Cove carefully spooned rice and chicken onto the plate. You saw that he took more of the grilled pineapple than any of the vegetables. You nodded, pleased, and your moms let it slide. At first, Cove poked at the food. Clearly, he was apprehensive to eat something new, but he took a few exploratory bites. It's good, huh? Isn't it? You don't have to keep asking. He still speared more meat with his fork and ate it, chewing thoughtfully. It's not bad. Mommy grinned at his words, satisfied even though it wasn't exactly a glowing commendation. Lizzie wasn't as mollified. You're so weird. Don't be mean to your friend. We're not friends. Oh. Jeez, Cove. Mommy floundered in the face of Cove's blunt honesty. You weren't surprised by Cove's declaration. The more you got to know him, the more you realized he wasn't the type of kid to keep his opinions to himself. In the end, you supposed that if the two of them didn't want to be friends, you couldn't force them to be. That still made you nervous. At least the two of you were definitely friends. 100%. I have no doubts. I wasn't the kind of kid I was friends with everybody when I was a kid. Like everybody was my friend when I was a child. I was just, like, if somebody was like, we're friends, I would have been like, duh. You knew that without a doubt. The way he felt about Lizzie didn't change it. When you gave Cove a look, he returned a small smile, confirming your thoughts. Your mommy looked at Mom and only got a shrug. Elizabeth, don't call someone weird. There's no such thing as a weird person and a non-weird person. There's just different perspectives. It's not a nice thing to say to someone, anyone. But Pam, Mommy tried to whisper exclusively to Mom. Her attempt to make it audible over the sounds of clanking silverware meant she caught the quiet words anyway. They're not friends. He said so. As parents, we can only try, and sometimes we fail. Not all kids will be thick as thieves. Now, less talking and more eating, kids. You need to clean up and start winding down for bed soon. But, Mom... No buts. We've talked about this. I read that really weird. We've talked about this. Your bedtime will be moved back in a few years. For now, you don't get to stay up late. Lizzie sulked, muttering under her breath about how it wasn't right. You laughed at Mom's phrasing. You stayed quiet. You groaned about it as well. It seemed way too early to go to sleep. The sooner you sleep, the sooner a brand new day will be here. I think that's pretty exciting. You weren't sure you agreed. The rest of dinner passed by uneventfully. Cove was silent for most of it, even when you nudged him and tried to get him to talk. Excuse me. All too soon, the table was cleared, the games in the living room were put away, and you were all steered to your bedrooms. Mom finished tucking you in and kissed your brow just as Mommy poked her head in the room. Excuse me. All ready for lights off, you two? You were lying comfortably in your bed, the blanket hiked up under your armpits. You could kick it off later if it got too hot. Mom had set up the sleeping bag on the floor for Cove, just beside your bed. He had already wiggled inside. We are. Perfect. I'll go say goodnight to Lizzie then. Mom tweaked your nose, chuckled when you squawked in annoyance, and left. Mommy took her place, sitting on the edge of your bed. Sweet dreams, sweetie. She pressed a soft kiss on your forehead. You giggled as strands of her hair fell forward and tickled you. Mommy smiled down affectionately at you, then moved her attention to Cove, who stood from his spot on the floor. Do you need anything before falling asleep, honey? What does your dad do? Sometimes he picks me up and lifts me really high, and he shakes his hands like he's gonna let go, but he catches me again. Excuse me. He keeps doing that until sometimes he drops me on my bed, or other times he lowers me down and we pretend like I'm crashing. Cove had become pretty excited when talking about the nightly ritual he and his dad shared. He seemed to realize how animated he was and bashfully quieted. But I don't want to do that here. Aw, how fun. Though I think you're right that it might not be a good idea to do that tonight. The sleeping bag might not be a soft enough landing. If there's anything else, you can always ask me or Sakura's other mom. But I'm the nicer one. Just don't tell her that. She laughed good-naturedly and stood up. Sleep well, Cove. Night. Leaning against the door jamb, she rested a hand on the light switch and looked at you. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. With a last smile, Mommy turned off the lights and stepped out, closing the bedroom door behind her. You listened to her footsteps fade as she walked down the hallway. But even as the sound vanished, your eyes stayed open. It was so exciting to have Cove spending the night. Hey, Cove. Hey, Cove, you're my friend. Oh, thanks. You're my friend too. Just randomly in the middle of the night. Okay, that would be something I'd do. You started when Cove sighed deeply. You turned your head to look in his direction. In the dark, you could only see a faint outline of a lump under the covers. Cove? Could you be less loud? What's wrong? I can't sleep. Why not? He shifted, or at least you thought he did. You couldn't see anything since your eyes were still adjusting to the dark, but you heard his sleeping bag rustle. I want to be in my bed. Oh. Cove sat up. Your eyes had gotten used to the low light level, so you could see him better. He got out of the sleeping bag, wobbled towards your side table, and pulled open the top drawer. What is it? I'm getting my glasses. You sat up too, watching as he reached inside. He paused for a second, then pulled his hand out. Instead of the glasses, though, he was holding a book. Cove turned it around in his hands, trying to figure out the proper orientation for it. You knew without reading the title which one it was. That was one your moms would read to you. It was special. I thought you were looking for your glasses. I was, then I felt this. It looks cool. The compliment he afforded your special book had you grinning, your confusion forgotten. It is really cool. Oh yeah? What's it about? It's a story about a squire who wants to become a knight and there's magic. Does it have mermaids? No, but... Let's see, it has cool pictures. Mommy reads it to me. There's a dragon in it and crazy things happen. That would be me. That would be me. Squire tries to kill her because the king wants the dragon dead, so they have this fight. But the squire finds out the dragon's really nice. They decide they don't want to fight her after all, so the two of them become friends instead. Cove looked excited by your words. He flipped the book over and focused at the backside summary. He must be pretty interested in it. You were reminded of the hours you'd spent hearing the tales. No matter how many times you read it, or had it read to you, you were still entertained by the story and pictures inside. You glanced out the window. The moon was high in the sky. You wanted to read the book with Cove. I'm gonna pick that one. You climbed out of bed and padded over to your side table. You opened it and rummaged around, pushing aside stuffed toys and crayons. Cove called out to you in a confused whisper. What are you doing? You didn't respond, letting the suspense build instead. You let out a quiet cry of victory when you found what you were looking for. You jumped back onto the bed before any hidden boogeyman could catch you unaware. Cove continued to watch as you wiggled your way under the blanket you discarded earlier. You pulled it up over your head. Shh, get under here already. Bring the book too. After a minute, the bed dipped as Cove got on it. Then the blanket shifted. You fiddled with the flashlight in your grip, feeling for the switch. Bah! With a click, the small space flooded with a bright light. Cove sputtered, putting a hand up to shield himself from the beam. Move it somewhere else. Oops. You tilted the flashlight so that it shone directly on his face, giggling. Hey! You shifted again, making it shine down. You adopted an innocent expression when Cove scowled at you. Now we can read, and my moms won't know. I definitely did this all the time. I always pretend to sleep when Mom or Mommy check on me, and I've never been caught. It's fun. Do you want to try? Cove nodded. Pleased by his straightforward response, you placed the book between you and flipped it open to the first page. Meanwhile, he laid down on his belly and shuffled closer, picking up the flashlight to shine it on the pages. His face was illuminated with a warm glow. You mirrored his position, leaning in so you could see the book better. Your foreheads nearly brushed until you shuffled back a comfortable distance. You wanted the story to be narrated. You loved it when Mommy read to you. Why not read aloud as loud as you dared at this time of night? You didn't even need to study the page for long. There once was a squire who dreamed of knighthood. All they wanted was to do good. Cove was taken aback when you began to recite the words by heart. You even pronounced knighthood properly, a word which had given you grief in the past. His reaction encouraged you to keep going. Soon you got to an exciting part, the squire and the dragon's first meeting. The squire walked up to the fearsome dragon, their borrowed sword in one hand and a torch in the other. Her red scales danced in the light like flickering flames. Could you say the dragon signs? Do you need to get your glasses? No, it's my head hurts if I don't wear my glasses for a while. I can kind of see things all right, but I don't know any voices. That's okay. It's fun anyway. Let me just... Cove read the page, his mouth moving silently with the words. Eventually, he nodded to himself and spoke them out loud. Who goes there? Roared the dragon. Who dares enter my cave? It was your turn. You went into the squire's famous speech. The next time you looked up from the page, your gaze landed right on Cove. His eyes were following the text, a soft smile lighting up his features. A lock of his hair fell into his field of vision, but he gave it no notice. He was lost in the story. You started when Cove caught you watching him. He raised a questioning eyebrow. What? Nothing. Cove shot you a strange look, but he went back to the book. You did too, even as your eyelids started to droop. When your eyes opened again, your bedroom was pitch black and silent. Your head was smushed in your pillow, your pajamas were sticking to you, and your mouth was dry. Slowly, you raised yourself onto your elbows. You yawned, the back of your throat twinging as you did so. You rolled onto your side to sit up in bed, planning on getting water from the kitchen, when you saw a dark shape towering above you. You froze. Then you remembered you weren't alone in your room that night. Cove? That you? Yeah. You shifted and felt something cylindrical press against your thigh. You fumbled for it. The familiar weight of the flashlight pressed into your palm. You turned it on. Cove blinked at you, looking exhausted. He was in his normal clothes again, shoes and everything. His pajama pants were left on the floor, abandoned. His sleeping bag was in a similar state. What is it? Can't sleep. I keep waking up. Did you have a bad dream? He shook his head from side to side. No, just can't sleep. It's weird here. You frowned. You'd helped your mom's redecorate it only a few months back. I like my room. It's not that it's bad. I just always sleep in my bed, in my room. That made things a little clearer. It wasn't anything that you'd done. Cove couldn't sleep in a new place. You wondered how long it took for Cove's bedroom in his new house to not be weird to him. Probably a while. I'm gonna go. What? That shook off the last of your doziness. He was going to walk outside back to his own house at this time of night, all by himself? He noted your shocked expression and looked at you with resolve. My dad will let me in, and I've gone outside late before, and I have to go. I'll come with you. I should tell my moms. I'll come with you. Why? I can get there myself, and then you'd have to go all the way back here from my house. I want us to stay together more. Cove looked at you quietly, as if contemplating something, before nodding his head. Okay. With that, Cove casually crouched down to collect his pajama pants. You were relieved he didn't mind you coming. Are you getting the rest of your stuff, too? Like your toothbrush? I don't know where my mom's put it all. Put it all. No, just this. You could understand that. He didn't really need anything right now, and could always pick up his things tomorrow. Cove visited your house during the day all the time. You grabbed the flashlight and waited by the door. Soon, Cove joined you. The two of you crept into the hallway as silently as you could. You sidestepped the loose floorboard at the end of the hall, alerting Cove to it as well. Apart from that, you had no problems making it to the front door. Everybody was in their rooms, so the rest of the house was abandoned. It was brighter outside. Here, some of your other neighbors had lights coming through their windows. Still, you felt better that with your flashlight turned on. You pointed it in the direction you were walking. There was no sound apart from the chirping of crickets and the crunch of some loose sand that had got all the way up the street from the beach. After a while, it was almost soothing. You thought back to your unlocked front door and hoped one of your moms didn't wake up. If they locked it or checked in on you, or both, you'd be in a lot of trouble. Surprisingly, it was Cove who broke the deep silence. This was my first sleepover. Really? I've had sleepovers before. Sometimes I'll go to Grandma and Grandpa's house. Shiloh's slept over a few times too, and other stuff. Cove remained quiet. The silence stretched between you, but it didn't feel awkward right now. You didn't feel the need to break it immediately. How was it? Or is it? It's not bad. I liked reading your book. You did? I kind of thought you weren't having fun. You didn't really say anything when we were eating. I didn't know what to say. Oh, now you were the one who didn't know what to say, so you said nothing. You just lit the path ahead. The two of you kept walking side by side, your shadows stretching across the concrete. In almost no time at all, you arrived. Cove's house loomed above you, the windows dark. Mr. Holden must be sleeping, just like everyone else in your own family. Are you sure your dad's gonna open the door? Yeah, he wakes up real easily. As if to demonstrate, he rang the doorbell. A couple of minutes passed and you wondered if Cove was wrong. Then the front door unlocked and cracked open. Out came his dad. Mr. Holden wasn't wearing all his clothes. His hair wasn't up in a ponytail like normal either. You felt a little bad to disturb him when he definitely had not been expecting anybody. Hello, Cove's dad. Anyways, his eyes had been narrowed into tired slits, yet they opened wide when he saw you and Cove. Kids? What in the world are you doing? Everything okay? He's got a surfer dude accent, assuming I can do one. I couldn't sleep. Cove said my room is weird. Mr. Holden blinked, his features still twisted in panic. Then he closed his eyes and let out a deep breath. Right. Well, that is a shame. What's done is done. Come on inside, son. We can talk about what happened in the morning. Bruh. Okay. Cove yawned while accepting the terms without complaint. Thank you for dropping him off, Sakura. I think you'll have to be a part of the conversation tomorrow, but we'll deal with what to do next time. Now, let me walk you back. It's not safe for you to be out this late by yourself. He moved to step past you, but you shook your head. I'll be fine, Mr. Holden. My house is right here, and I have a flashlight. Mr. Holden remained where he was, his brow furrowed, and placed a hand on Cove's shoulder blade. Then I'll stand right here. Cove and I will be your lookouts. We'll close our door once you've made it back inside. You nodded your head at the compromise. Have a good night. Take care. Mr. Holden waved you off. As you turned, your eyes met Cove's, still standing beside his dad. His lips turned up at the corners. He spoke in an almost whisper. Bye, Sakura. Thanks for coming. Flashlight clutched in your hand, you jogged back over to your home. You did feel better knowing Cove and his dad were watching to make sure nothing happened. Once you got to your front door, you glanced back over to see the two waiting. You waved. Faintly, you saw Cove wave back. You quietly closed the door behind you, smiling to yourself. Then you tiptoed into your bedroom. The flashlight was returned to your drawer in its rightful place. Although Cove had to go back home in the end, you still considered the sleepover to be quite a success. You did hope that next time he'd be able to stay the whole night, whenever next time came along. The next morning, you were woken by the sound of Mom's voice and a soft shake on your shoulder. Sakura, wake up, it's time to get up and at 'em. The sun was peeking through your curtains and you rubbed at your eyes as they adjusted to the new light. Cove's already out of bed. You blinked at her for a moment, confused, until you caught the empty sleeping bag on the ground and remembered what had happened during the night. But I didn't see him out there. I wonder where he's gotten off to so early. You hesitated, giving look a mom with your mouth hanging half open as your mind processed what to tell her. Sakura, is everything all right? Cove couldn't sleep. He said my room was weird. What? Where is Cove now? Did he sleep on the couch? Mom was still looking at you expectantly, but as you started to explain what had happened, you were interrupted by Mommy calling from downstairs, saying Mr. Holden was at the door. You could tell by the way that Mom's forehead crinkled that she was even more concerned. When she turned to head downstairs, you pulled back the covers and jumped out of bed to follow her. Cliff, how are you? Mom joined Mommy at the door, while you hovered at the bottom of the stairs and peeked around the corner. You saw Cove's dad standing just outside, a sheepish smile on his face. He was alone, and you wondered if Cove was alright. I don't want to alarm you both, but Cove showed up back home in the middle of the night, and he wasn't alone. He rubbed the back of his neck anxiously. He must have felt bad about sharing the news. Mr. Holden kind of reminded you of Cove in that moment. Your moms exchanged a matching pair of surprised looks, Mommy gasping and covering her mouth with a hand. The two of them looked your way. You quickly ducked back behind the wall. The boy and I made sure Sakura got back safe, but Cove wouldn't tell me what happened. I thought you might have a little more insight. Bruh. We didn't hear a thing during the night. I noticed Cove was gone just minutes before you arrived. Is he alright? We're so sorry. We'll be having a talk with Sakura about this for sure. Mr. Holden pulled his lips into a tight smile and held up his hands as if to say it wasn't their fault. He's fine. I just wanted to find out more about before having another talk with him. I should have known he wasn't ready to spend the night at someone else's house. He felt bad for Mr. Holden. He looked so sad. They discussed the event for a little bit longer, your parents promising to call him if they found out more, and when Mr. Holden finally said goodbye, you heard Mom calling your name. Immediately, you panicked, wondering if you should find somewhere to hide. There was a growing sense of dread in your stomach that you were about to get into a lot of trouble. Your moms found you eventually, though you were relieved to see they didn't look very angry. However, they did look very worried. What were you thinking, Sakura? Why didn't you tell us something was wrong? Why did you leave the house? You toed the ground in front of you, refusing to look at them. I'm sure you were just trying to help him, but you know how dangerous it is to go outside at night without a parent, don't you? Nodding your head, you couldn't do much more than listen as your parents explained how dangerous it had been for you and Cove to wander over to his house on your own. Personally, you didn't think it was that bad, since Cove only lived across the road, but you didn't tell your moms that. You were already in enough trouble as it was, so when they asked you to promise to tell them something like that next time, you nodded your head in agreement. Even though it was a little unfair, you accepted the punishment that you weren't allowed to have any sleepovers until you could prove to your moms that you were responsible enough. You were determined to show them that you could be trusted. When you saw Cove next, he was sorry you had gotten in trouble. After hearing a similar lection, Cove got away with a warning from his dad. Mr. Holden felt the negative experience was enough already, and Cove didn't need additional punishments. In the end, the two of you and your parents were eventually able to move past the ill-fated sleepover. It had all been a learning experience according to the adults. You could accept that. There were definitely things you learned from it, and hopefully one day you and Cove would finally be able to have a successful sleepover. And there we go. Awesome. We have finished that one. Anyways, I am happy with the way that went. That was very cute, of course. We could potentially do some more of these, but I think, honestly, these were some pretty good ones that we did. We didn't do library and barbecue. I think I said that I wanted to do all the DLC ones, but I kind of also just want to move into the next part of this, you know, because we still have, I think, 2 whole life stages after this. Another summer and then another summer, I think. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. And I hope that you guys are, you know, enjoying this game, because it's honestly a really great game. And I'm kind of interested to see how Cove grows up from this, and how, if any of our decisions, or like the things that we chose in this stage of our life, how they will, you know, affect the next stage of our life. Anyways, I will see you guys next time. Bye.